On to race number 6, the first of the big trial races on the weekend. Group 2, it is the BOCHK Wealth Management Jockey Club Mile, 1,600 metres, headed by Beauty Generation, the highest rated turf miler in the world right now. Season's Bloom, he actually won this race last year. Beauty Only is a previous winner of the race. Neil Callan from Barrier 3. Singapore Sling, who chased home Beauty Generation last time out. He's worse off of the weights here. Pingu Spark gets up in trip. And the Golden Age is first up for the season. His last start was a win, making all over the 1,600 metres in a Group 3 race at the back end of last season. He's been up at Chung Far as well. Came back on the 12th of this month, so he could give Beauty Generation some competition for the lead.
Yeah, the Golden Age will. I think he'll roll forward and take up the front. He's coming back from a chip fracture, and then he had that chip removed, so he's been off the scene for a while, but he's a jump and run type. Beauty Generation will roll forward, probably sit outside of him. Pingu Spark is an option of rolling forward, but I don't think Beauty Generation will let him get in front of him. Of course, Beauty Generation defeated in this race last year, finished third, but he had some hiccups throughout the race.
Here he is now with Zach Purden aboard. He's swept all before him this season so far, and he's carried the weights, hasn't really worried him at all. So here on a set weight race, he looks well placed. Just has to carry that 5 penalty. The Wizard of Oz, I thought, was a better piece of work from him. Haven't seen too much from him recently, but that's him in front of Premier. Now, the Wizard of Oz can be ridden by Joe Moreira, and we know at his best he can run a decent race in this. I thought Pingu Spark's track work's picked up recently. He's a big boy, old Pingu Spark, one of the biggest horses here, and he's going nice.
13.26 he's going to weigh in at.
Yeah, it's huge.
He is.
All right, that's it for track work. Then we'll start off with Beauty Generation. He had them all cooked under handicap conditions last time out. Singapore Sling does run through the line, but how do they turn it round? Now back at set weights and penalties.
Yeah, he's got to give him 11 pounds, Singapore Sling, but he really stood up here, going in fresh. You wonder whether this has taken the edge off of him a little bit as he presses in second up. Hoping not, because he does look a really serious horse, obviously very consistent throughout the 4-year-old series, as was Beauty Generation the season before. Not much between the two of them there, and I don't expect there to be a great deal between them again, but it'll be same scenario. Singapore Sling will probably have to chase Beauty Generation, and I'm not sure he can get him the way he's going.
Yeah, I tend to agree as well, and I think Singapore Sling will come on for that. I'm going to go out on a limb in this and pick that Quinella in this race.
Yeah. Brave. All right, well, there's a few others to consider as well, including Beauty Only. What are his chances with jockey Neil Callan?
Beauty Only, Neil. This is a race that he's won before. Comes into it third up on Sunday. Where's he at?
He's mixed it up a little bit this season. He's run a great first up run. I didn't expect him to do that with his trials. He just looked a bit rusty. He kind of bounced maybe a bit second up, but I think the bias of the track on that day was just a little bit against him, and he was probably a bit too far out of his ground anyway. But in his own right, I didn't think he didn't run too bad a race, even though it doesn't look like that on paper. But his last trial, he just fell asleep on me. You know, they were waiting on Pingu Spark. They couldn't get him in for a long time, and I just think the horse was half asleep. And he's always seemed to have the hood on for pretty much most of his career. So I just suggested to Tony that, you know, I asked him what he thought actually about maybe just swapping the headgear around on him just to see if it'll spark him up, because it looks like it's probably going to be his last season. So, you know, he's taken the hood off him. He's put some cheek pieces on him, and if that sparks him up and it turns him right in the right direction, he'll surprise a few.
Looking at the way the race could pan out, Beauty Generation's a hard horse to get past. Would you like to see the Golden Age and him roll along and set a good tempo to help your horse potentially?
Yes and no. It doesn't really matter, because I think there's only 10 runners, so, you know, by the average law of averages, that he's going to be that length or two closer anyway, with not a full maximum field. So, look, if he can jump clean and get a nice position, just not last, but just one length closer, he's within striking range. If he's back to his best, he'll give them something to do.
Yeah, he goes in for me. Hard to tip him to win, but I certainly think he'll run his race. That's Beauty Only with the gear change. What about the Golden Age then? He's not the biggest in size, but he's got a big old heart inside him, and he just jumps and runs, doesn't he?
Well, with a title like that, let's go to Paul. Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. Look, I'll tell you one thing is he has put on a bit of weight coming into this race, and he has been up in Chung Far, so there is that little bit of an unknown. Look, I'm going to leave him out. I just think, I don't know if he's totally ready for this, but look, If he is, he'll run a big race, but I'm going to take the view that he isn't.
At his best, yes, but he's been off the scene for nearly 6 months. He's had chip fractures removed. He's got no race fitness underneath his belt. He's well out of the handicap at set weight. So there's too many crosses as opposed to ticks for me. He'll run a cheeky race, but I wouldn't have thought that he could find the line first.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see him win, but I think he will get his own way in front, and that might just help him get a head start in a few. But hard to tip against the favourite here, Paul?
Yeah, I've got him on top. Beauty Generation to beat Singapore Sling. I think these two will have another battle in this race. Pingu Spark has improved in his track work. I know he's a big boy, but his work has picked up. And Southern Legend as well. He's trialled really well recently. And from a barrier 4, cross nose band goes on him. We'll give him a bit of a chance. He has been a giant killer before, Southern Legend. 1, 5, 7 and 6. I will go exotics because Beauty Generation is going to come up a tad short.
Well, you're backing out of your Cornella there earlier, pronounced. I'm going with Beauty Generation as well. I think Singapore Sling's the real danger. Beauty only for the reasons Neil mentioned, and Southern Legend as Paul suggested.
I knew you had it, yes.
I bank at the 1. I think the 4 or 5 will be the potential horse to turn Beauty Generation should something go wrong. This race last year, he did get really fizzy throughout the race and threw his head up a few times, and in the end it cost him.
But didn't cost him on the big day,
No,
so it's not necessarily the end of the road. He did come back and win. But I think Singapore Sling will give him a mighty race, even with the turnaround at the weights. But 1 and 5 seems the obvious way to go there in the 6th.